With the collapse of Germany's ruling coalition, the German economy is set for worse times. There is a multi-billion euro hole in the German budget and the country is headed for its second year of contraction. A leadership vacuum in Germany is also one in Europe. This comes at a time when the EU hopes to set up a united response to possible tariff increases from Donald Trump's administration in its second term. Chancellor Scholz believes the EU has what it takes to support globalization.
The EU has competencies to do what is necessary, but we should all very clearly seek talks. My position on this issue is very, very clear. We do not support protectionism.
Chancellor Scholz fired his finance minister from the fiscally conservative Free Democrats for opposing his plan to suspend the debt brake again in order to raise more funds for Ukraine and the economy. That led to the FDP withdrawing from the government, leaving Scholz's SPD and the Greens. The Chancellor says he will hold a confidence vote in January, but has now called for a snap election in February.
Germany is a key actor in the European Union, and if this big player is kind of weakened, that could also have implications on the whole construction of the European Union. What we will see, perhaps, is kind of a shift of power within the European Union going to the Eastern European parts, to the Eastern European states. And so we can see kind of some changes. And this could be also kind of a long-lasting development we are going to face.
The opposition Conservatives are leading in nationwide polls. German industry is reeling from high costs and fierce Asian competition. Issues like aging infrastructure, underinvestment and regulatory burdens have hit the economy. The transition away from Russian gas has impacted its manufacturing sector. Despite these challenges, Germany remains a key player in the European Union and continues to adapt to new economic realities. The Economic Brief, DD India. Well, our guests continue to be with us. Dr. Sachdeva, is Germany moving, the conservative way?
Well, in fact, for years, the Germany used to be one of the most stable economic and political country within Europe. Now, in the last 2 years, there are problems. And what you can really see that, the growth is the lowest among all G7 countries. Now, the politically, the traffic light, the coalition has collapsed. For years, Germany dependent on, cheap energy imports from Russia. And they also engage very seriously with China economically and also export markets to the US. Now, all these three things, whether you look at, the imports of energy from Germany, that's moving away from Russia, they have just moved away from this. There are problems with China now because in many of the things which they were exporting to China, now Chinese themselves have become competitors, so they are actually moving up further. And there are also other tensions. Similarly, with the US, now all kind of tariff wall. In fact, even from the earlier Trump administration, all the tariffs which were imposed, now they were not even removed even during the Biden administration. So now they talk of even further because there is also, US doesn't have only major trade deficit with China. They also have huge trade deficit also with Germany. And Germany is one of the major exporters. But, so the kind of, for energy, if you look at within Germany, some of the major industries, look at chemicals, look at paper, look at metals. These are the industries which consume about 80% of commercial energy. So their prices have gone up. Many of them have actually stopped production. They are looking new options. So there are problems. And then, of course, on the immigration, all these issues are there because the demography is something very, very different. And now because, only thing what they need to do is they have to put more money, investments into infrastructure. They have to digitize the economy. For that, there was problems within the coalition because still, in fact, you have a very highly skilled workforce in Germany. The debt levels are still low, but still politically they were not able to kind of figure out how they really move forward. So there are serious problems in German economy, but the fundamentals are still strong. But I think they have serious difficulties. And the global geopolitics and the tensions with the US uncertain policies are going to affect them badly.
Sure. Mr. Basu, German auto brands, they are clearly among the most elite, and they've been hit by the move towards EVs. So do you see a revival in regular fossil fuel brands for the international market, with the US now wanting to increase exports of oil?
Well, I think, first of all, the political situation in Germany, there's going to be a clear shift to the right. The CDU-CSU alliance is going to be on the ascendant, and the AfD, the so-called far right, is second in all the polls. That'll signify a significant political shift in Germany, and it'll be quite consistent with what President Trump wants. That's first thing. Now, with regard to the auto brands, I think it's important to understand that Volkswagen was the largest brand in China until just a few years ago. It was an early mover in the China market, and it had a huge share of China's market. On top of that, of course, within Germany itself and across the world, the two elite brands,
BMW and
Mercedes-Benz and BMW, are big players. Now, what was interesting is that all European brands, all global brands withdrew from Russia. Russia was not considered to be a very large market, but it was a significant market, not insignificant. And in Russia, the withdrawal of global brands, including particularly the German brands, has been replaced entirely by Chinese brands. And by the access that Chinese brands have to the Russian market has enabled them all to gain enormous scale economies, and that has reduced unit costs in China, particularly for EVs, electric vehicles, and they are now gaining market share in Europe.
Right.
So they're eating into Germany's market share across their home market in the European Union, and that is a significant problem. And this is not just cars, whether it's chemicals, steel, aluminium, in every sphere. China has massive overcapacity. Their domestic market is not growing. Domestic demand is extremely weak because they have overcapacity in real estate, overcapacity in every industrial sector, and they are trying to dump their excess capacity on the rest of the world.
That's the reason why the rest of the world also needs to put tariffs, perhaps.
Exactly.
So Dr. Sachdeva, how are the Eastern European states likely to be affected by German troubles?
Well, in fact, since the Germany is the main engine of European economy, and if that slows down, then obviously it's going to affect many other economies within Europe as well. But every country has its own way of dealing with the things, and every country is very nervous. But within the Eurozone, in fact, other economies are doing reasonably well, some of them. I mean, particularly Eastern European economies. Look at, Polish economy and other economies. They are doing pretty all right. So only thing is that, they were actually, some slowdown within the German economy is going to affect them, but, they are also trying to diversify into other areas. But overall, I don't think this is going to be such a serious matter as far as the other Eastern European countries are concerned, because they are doing reasonably well actually in the last few years.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Dr. Gulshan Sachdeva from the School of International Studies, JNU, and Mr. Prasenjit Basu, Senior Economist in the studio. Thank you for joining us and throwing light on these two stories.